us your full life story in 2 minutes.
High Level is a full CRM and marketing platform, and I've used some of the best in the SaaS industry.
And we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Instagram, and I think that's it. Did I say Twitch? Welcome to WinsDay. Oh my gosh, I was almost thinking WinsDay might not happen. We had like cancellation after cancellation, but that is another story for another day. People have things come up. We understand, and we're happy to move forward with tonight's guests who are so cool. Rolling with the punches is going to be a great conversation. We're talking about GEO, AI automation, and that's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise around both of those things right now. And honestly, I'm a little sick about talking about them. So let's talk about how to make them more human. But we're going to be doing that tonight with our guests, who I'm going to bring on here in just a moment. But before I do, I have to tell you a little bit about StreamYard. So StreamYard is what we're using to go live right now. And we are StreamYard affiliates here at Revening. And we would like to invite you to also try StreamYard. So LinkedIn, it doesn't actually have the live streaming capabilities built in. So you do have to use a third-party platform. And StreamYard is a LinkedIn preferred vendor. So they don't like third parties, but they do have a list. You can go Google it or use your LLM. There is a LinkedIn support list that will give you a list of all of their preferred live streaming vendors. And StreamYard is one of them. I'm going to put my affiliate link up on the screen. But if you are listening on podcast, just send me an email to jessie@reveting.com. Would be happy to help you get set up on StreamYard. But also, if you don't want to do it yourself, you may just want to work with us here at Revening, and we do it for you. We help you book your guests. We help you do the intro video, the outro video, all the production. I digress. You'll be hearing more about that tonight. But also going to mention High Level. So High Level, I just saw someone signed up on the affiliate link 2 days ago. So people are still listening to this, so we'll keep mentioning it. I like their affiliate program because it's a 40% commission, and they have a really easy to use platform that has all the bells and whistles that you'd find in those big CRMs and marketing automation platforms, but it's only $97 a month and you get 3 accounts. So we've fully adopted it here at Revening. We have the agency version. So if you sign up for Revening, you get our white labeled version, app.revening.com. So that we can, show you your leads right in a CRM and also give you like marketing automation and all these other things that you might need. But anyway, I digress. Let's bring on our guests for tonight. Welcome to the show. We've got Molly McKinley and Micah Stone who are able to join us. Thank you for being here.
Hi, so good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in good old-fashioned WinsDay style, we've got Boris Lav in the comments. Hello. Anyone else, by the way, in the comments, like join our conversation. We want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from tonight? We're going to get introductions from our guests here, but give us your introduction if you're tuning in. Like, what do you do? Where are you from? And we want to know who we're speaking to, and we'll tailor this conversation for you. But in good old-fashioned Wednesday style, we'll put our 2-minute clock up on the screen, and then we will ask you to tell your full life story from birth to what brought you to now in 2 minutes. Micah, can you kick us off?
Sure. So I grew up in Seattle, and I've spent my whole career working in startups, mostly tech companies. My background's in data and analytics, and so I'm very analytic driven, analytic focused. And I brought that over to the marketing side of the equation. My first job was in ad tech, where I helped build algorithms on the old Facebook platform. Way back in the day, it was, this big real-time bidding thing. And we, spent a lot of money trying to figure out how to buy ads really efficiently. And then I moved into the client side and worked as the director of marketing at Ring, helped Ring grow through the sale with Amazon, and then worked at a few other consumer companies, did some consulting. And more recently, I worked at a company called Latch. And then now I'm at a company called Ember. I also do some consulting on the side. It's marketing consulting, but really from, again, the data and analytical lens of trying to understand, not just the messaging, but what's working with the business and how to track things as closely as possible through looking through numbers, looking through spreadsheets, dashboards, whatever is needed to understand how to improve the business, whether that's grow the business on the revenue side, improve customer support, help the sales team understand what's going on, really anywhere across the business.
Incredible. Well, you fit right in with the WinsDay crew here because we have a lot of data-centric people here. In fact, Data Ghost, they were a B2B data company, and they were acquired early on, and they credited their acquisition to Reviting because they got their first 100 users from sponsoring us. And then I'm also a fractional CMO at a B2C consumer exchange platform. B2B consumer data exchange platform, BeatX. They're doing some awesome stuff with AI, machine learning. But I digress. We love strategy, we love marketing, and we love data on this show. So you're in the right place. Thanks for being here. And Molly, we'd love to hear from you too. What makes you human? And in 2 minutes, from birth to what brought you to now.
Wow, from birth. I love that, by the way. So I guess I would start with, I was a kid that always had the lemonade stand. I grew up with my uncles as entrepreneurs, and, you sort of listening then to them always talk about being the captain of your own ship. They were actually sailors. And so I just had that imprint really early that I knew I was going to run my own business. So I grew up in Ohio. We have that in common. And, made my way out west where I ran art galleries. I was an art history and fine art major. And to my parents' dismay, they didn't think I would use the degree, but I actually do all the time as visual language. But ran art galleries in San Francisco. That transferred me into a sort of sliding doors moment where I started to get into marketing and PR in the 90s in San Francisco. And that's really where I got my PR start. And I have been doing it ever since. And what do I have been? So I guess the challenge is, we've gone through all these bumps in marketing and strategy. And now we're sort of full circle moment back with PR. My cool project that I'm working on right now is I've switched back into solopreneurship because I was just named as the founding director of Meredith College, the only accredited business college for women in our country, is launching an entrepreneurship center of impact. and I get to create that for North Carolina. So that is my really big project that I'm really excited about, and is sort of pulling everything that I've learned along the way over the last 30 years or so into sort of a legacy work. So that's who I am.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. And yes, we both have the Columbus area connection. So I'm in the Westerville suburb of Columbus, and you grew up in Dublin.
I did, yeah.
So
I'm in
I grew up
Raleigh
in
now.
Illinois,
Yes.
but now you're in Raleigh. But you also went in California. I lived in California as well, and
Yes.
loved art, but never did art history. I love the background. Thank you both for being here. This is going to be a great discussion, which, speaking of, let's jump right into our first topic that Mike is kicking off: marketing tactics that drive growth. So take it away, Micah.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, I'm very data driven and analytical with how I think about things. And I think that really is what drives growth and how to drive growth effectively. Basically, what I do is I just try to think in funnels and understand, okay, if I start at the top of the funnel, like what is it that I need to do to maximize the number of users who will get me to the next step? And when I talk about funnels, there's a traditional marketing funnel when talking about, I want awareness. I want, people to consider the product, people buy the product. I'm not even necessarily talking about that specifically. I think there's a bunch of different funnels that come into your business that affect your business in different ways. And so, what I try to do is identify what those stages are that people are coming through the business. And whether that ends up with them purchasing something, whether that ends up with them generating a lead, whether that's a recruiting thing, just trying to understand what is the goal and then what is the first step, and then filling in all the steps in between. And once you have a good roadmap of what that looks like, what I try to do is figure out how to test. When I talk to people about what's my strategy, how do I do marketing, what's the most effective thing for me, I just say test, 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 test. And I'm always thinking about how we can set up a effective test to understand what's working, what's not working, and how to do more of what's working. And constantly looking for efficiencies and understanding, okay, is this driving growth is the first question, yes or no. Where is it driving growth in that funnel? Is it driving it at the top of the funnel? Is it driving it further down the funnel? And then just trying to basically get as many people to move through the funnel as possible with as many different tests as we can run at the same time. And so I want to understand, okay, if I am going to dial a knob up here, how does that affect the rest of the funnel? If I am going to try and send more people through the funnel, how can I get the funnel to be more efficient? And just constantly iterating on that, trying to understand what part of it is working, and then what part of it you can iterate on even more. I think one of the things that I've been really excited about with AI is just the fact that it allows you to do more testing and testing a lot faster with fewer resources needed. I know I'm going to be talking a little bit about some AI stuff a little bit later on, and really excited to dive into that, because I think that has made growth a lot easier and helped with a lot of the understanding of the funnel, the analysis of the funnel, and then figuring out where to push things, and then being able to test not just 3 things, let's say 9 things, 10 things, without a whole bunch of extra lift.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I can appreciate that. What would you say would be the average amount of time you give a test?
It's a good question. I am not the kind of person who's I'm pretty impatient. I'm not waiting around for statistical significance a lot of the time. I think it depends on the volume of stuff coming in, basically. If you're getting a few clicks a day, then it's going to take a lot longer. If you're getting a higher volume, it's going to be a lot shorter. But I do think there is value in looking at the numbers as they come in, and not just waiting until, it's reached some kind of mythical p-value or something like that. To me, it's really important to kind of see how things are happening in real time. And you can get some directional information early on without, you can statistically argue maybe that's just noise or that's not where it's going to end up. But if you have a good, strong hypothesis and the data is either proving your hypothesis or proving your hypothesis wrong, then it's okay sometimes, I think, to say, okay, we feel like we have good information here. Let's move on to the next test. Because I think the most important part of all of this is speed. The more tests you can run, the more information you get back, the more you can turn that into more testing and more growth. And so speed is kind of the critical third piece of that.
For sure. What's your take on all this, Molly?
Yeah, I mean, I come from a background where I am old school PR, where everything was earned. And so for me, I always was sort of uncomfy in this growth hacking stage of what I think we're coming out of, where everything was it was all about pushing boundaries and pushing limits. And my take was always like, well, is that right for the customer? Is that how you would want to be spoken to? Is that how you would want to be engaged with? And so I was always in this weird tension of like, how do you drive growth without being spammy? How do you have a conversation without, asking for someone's commitment before they even, knew who you were, And so I was always in this really uncomfy spot of trying to understand, like, how do you grow appropriately? How do you grow over time? And how do you grow in a way that like builds loyalty and not just sort of hacking things? And so I agree, like I love to test and I do love data too. But my perspective always was like, hey, like, how would I feel on the receiving end of this? And is that going to do anything over time and for the long haul to build and earn trust? And that's sort of my litmus test of should we do this or not?
Yeah, great point. Absolutely. I definitely can see it from both sides. We've got a comment here. Building growth that drive loyalty. That's a great perspective. Yes, growth that drives loyalty. So automation and AI is kind of taking over everything. But how do we keep that human element in there so that it doesn't feel spammy? What's your take on that, Micah?
I think I agree as well. I mean, I think, when I talk about speed and iteration and testing, I am like, do not spam people. I strongly agree that it's important to, make the person feel like they're being cared for. And I do think with AI, that's becoming more possible. I think that people are going to be able to get an experience that's more customized and personalized to them. And there's certainly like a little bit of maybe this is creepy or maybe this is a little bit wrong. But I think if it's done in the right way, it can actually feel really nice as a user that your needs are being taken care of. Like what you want to have happen is actually going to happen. I feel like a lot of times companies offer a product that appeals to the widest range of people possible. And that's great. I mean, that's kind of what they do to stay in business. They want to just grow the pie as much as possible. But that means if you're on either edge of the users in that you feel like maybe the product's not made for you. And so as AI enables people to have products and marketing to those people on the edges a little bit better and say, hey, maybe 90% of these features aren't made for you, but these 10% are really good. So you get to get emails or you get to get information about those 10% of features that are relevant to you. All of a sudden it becomes more useful and you become a little bit of a happier customer. I know I'm painting kind of a rosy picture and there's so many ways that this could go wrong, but I do think that there is potential for this to be done really well and give people an opportunity to get marketing that speaks to them a little bit better.
Definitely, 100%. So marketing tactics that drive growth, I can't help but wonder before we change topics to ask both of you, like obviously the tactic of choice that we really kind of, focus in on here is LinkedIn Live. We've repurposed that to podcast, short form video, but is there any specific tactic you've been finding lately that is really beneficial or that you really like using or is generating a lot of revenue for the clients you're working with?
Do you want to go, Micah? And then I'll...
Yeah, sure. I've seen a little bit of a renaissance in Google Ads. I think for a long time, Google Ads were maybe a little bit what I just talked about, where they kind of were just appealing to the lowest common denominator of users. And with some of these AI tools, what we've been able to do is make ads that are relevant to a very narrow slice of people, and then also make landing pages. And again, talking about that funnel, so it's really specific to someone. So instead of trying to appeal to a broad audience, appealing to a very specific audience with a solution to their problem. And I think the ads have just been a lot higher in terms of click-through rates and in terms of conversion rates than probably would have been reasonably possible before. It just would have cost a lot of time, energy, resources, money to make what we've been able to make. And so, I think it's kind of funny. I guess all this stuff goes in circles. I think for a long time, Google Ads were just kind of out of not as popular. And I think it's going to come back, even as more and more Google searches are moving to AI platforms and things like that. It's still been quite effective for some of the things we've been doing.
Yeah, and for me, I think the thing I'm doing right now that I'm really seeing everything come together is I'm thinking in clusters. And so if there is a topical pillar that we're trying to have authority on, for example, then I'm thinking about, well, who else has authority in that area? What awards represent or honor authority in that area? Is there a conference or a speaking opportunity in that area? What kind of conversations should we be having in this clustered topic? And really structuring the page around sort of topical authority instead of more linear as that we used to do it in the past. And really thinking through, like, how do we have this sort of same as conversation where this, an awards page is really linking to a conversation within a blog, for example. And it's nothing dramatic. It's just a shift in thinking that is really structuring content well, and we're getting results in terms of AI actually being visible in AI and then being recommended in AI from what we can tell.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, since we have you full stage, would you mind kicking us off on the next topic, Molly, which is adding GEO as a service line?
Sure. So I think we're just in this really weird moment right now where, for speaking from a personal perspective, I'm getting hired to help people create visibility in AI, which obviously GEO is generative engine optimization, right? And that is how are you found within an AI, or how you recommend it as part of a conversation with an AI agent. But we're in this weird moment where people are still in this gotcha, this is AI kind of moment. And it's odd to me that we're still sort of being asked to have AI authority, but then people are gotcha, you're using AI. So I definitely want to call that out, because I think any other consultants out there, that's going to be something that really resonates. And I'm not quite sure how to work around that as we start to introduce GEO as a service line, for example. But for me, I started my background, again, PR, earned media, that right now with GEO is one of the things that sends the highest authority signal, right? Because it's third-party validation, and anything third-party validated as humans or as machines has a different signal to it that creates trust. So the way I look at the sort of GEO as a service line is really kind of thinking about it holistically. So adding SEO, search engine optimization, adding AEO, answer engine optimization, and adding GEO together, because it's really hard to separate any of them because they're all working together. I think the traditional SEO folks who are technically adept at structured content are in a really great position to take advantage of adding GEO as a service line. And then I think on the other side of it, traditional PR folks who understand how to have build relationship with the media, what relationships matter, what publications actually carry higher authority signals. Those folks are also in a great position, I think, to start to add it as a service line. So, it's just a kind of a tricky moment right now because we have such camps of people who are still resisting AI and are sort of gotcha, we've ruined the M dash forever. And then you have, which is sad, but true. But then you have people who are asking for visibility. And so we definitely need to figure out how to position this and how to position AI expertise in a way while we're in the Wild West to set expectations, and not let the use of AI as we build with AI as a service line affect our own credibility and relationships. So it's a very weird time, and we should be thinking about lots of those things.
Awesome. Yeah, we absolutely should. I know I should be thinking about it a lot more. How about you, Micah? Have you started thinking about GEO?
I have, and I've tried it out. I have some reservations about it. I think because I just don't understand it very well. I think the strategy from the people I've talked to seems to be just get as much media as possible, posts on Reddit, and just basically getting as much content as possible. And I just, thinking about how LLMs actually work, how they make recommendations, I don't understand how that would work. Like, these LLMs can't be manipulated in the same kind of way, and they don't function like Google or any of the other search engines do for SEO. And so I am a little bit cautious about it because I just don't get how it's working or how it's intended to work to drive more visibility from the LLM. I don't think they're as easily kind of gamed or manipulated as search engines definitely used to be. And even today, like there's not the same kind of like structure around it as SEO has, obviously.
Yeah, I would love to bounce in that too, because I think that's one of the reasons that I love it so much, because it really is earned. The LLMs don't want to get it wrong, and their ability to get something right over and over again is what builds the trust with us as users. And so understanding that, creating the sort of surround sound verification that this is this, and that it's okay to recommend it, it's okay and safe to recommend this, is really the name of the game. So you can't really game it. It is earned. And so again, that's why I like to think about it in clusters. Like, if I, as a human, what are all of the authority signals that I have or that I use to make a good decision and discern this between this or that? And using that same sort of, discernment as it relates to how an AI would also make the decision. And so it's like the assistant who has read absolutely everything. So if your web copy is saying one thing and your reviews say another, it's going to not resonate, right? There's going to be some dissonance. But if your reviews are great and are saying the one thing, your web copy lines up, you're, in a publication saying the same thing, and you have a book that talks about it and a YouTube channel, all of those things are like, yes, 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 this equals this. And that's where it starts to compound and make sense. So we really are kind of going back into this omni-channel, surround sound, like making sure that everything is clean and lined up and consistent, so that we can give confidence. Because frankly, even with humans, like, if someone says, something and it's not quite right, it breaks our trust. And AI and the LLMs are just able to scan it at scale. And so it really kind of feels like a very human skill in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question? I think it's a really interesting point. So do you think that having like consistent messaging is better than like volume? Like what's the actual strategy there for for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you foundationally have inconsistency, you're in trouble, right? Because just like humans, if you say, "Hey, my favorite color is blue," and then you turn over here and say my favorite color is black, then the person's like, "Wait a minute, you just said it was blue." And sort of that same thing, I think, is happening with the AI agents, right? And so, first of all, get everything super tidy, super consistent, right? And that's where that messaging comes into play. But then I think it's the layers on top of it. So it's not just what I'm saying or what I'm pushing out with an ad. It's like, what else is being said about that thing? And can I trust the other signals well enough to say that, that this is something that I'm willing to hedge a bet on? I mean, because that's essentially what's happening. If someone's having a conversation, within an AI agent, within their AI agent, right? Like, the AI has to decide what do they know, or what can they see that they would recommend. And again, it's not so different than the way we consume as humans. We sort of collectively think about everybody we know. And I do a lot of work with prop tech companies, and sort of the saying is every consumer knows at least 5 to 6 real estate agents. And so how do you know which one, to refer? And it usually comes down to, direct experience. You've recently talked to them, so there's freshness there, and that there's a level of trust, and that, it's resonance. You're vibing with what they're saying. And I really think we're kind of in the same boat with AI. And that's how I'm approaching it. Sort of like, nothing can be, you can't hide things anymore. It used to be you have a bad review, you just bury it, with a bunch of good reviews. You have, you just can't do that stuff anymore because it's all visible. Even the stuff you're trying to hide is still visible. And so a lot of the work right now with GEO as a service line is just auditing, like, what is the AI picking up? What are they seeing? And then based on what they're seeing, we know how to fix it and maneuver. But I'm spending a lot of time just auditing, just to try to understand, like, what, and then I love to actually, I work with Claude, and, just look at the thinking of all of the different steps of their interaction and trying to decide, like, actually when you're in the query. And that also is super insightful in terms of, like, okay, so pulling these resources, thinking about these things, I need to make sure that that's part of my strategy next time.
Have you seen that as there's been new model releases, it's changed, or has there been kind of consistency between the new models?
I think it's exponentially changing, and so much. In fact, I'm writing a book right now called Trust and Authority. And I started the book writing, and this is really where I developed my aptitude with AI. I started it a little over a year ago, and was using the project initially as AI as my book editor, and asking me questions and then giving me prompts, and then I go off and do my writing, and then we have a conversation, and LLM doing what it does best, and that's organizing thoughts, sequencing, creating a more structured argument, right? Pattern recognition. But now, a year later into this book, it is the quality of the dynamic. And that's also because there's literally thousands and thousands of words that we have done on this particular project together. But there is a level of sentience or sentientness that is starting to emerge. And I don't know if others are experiencing that, or if it's just because this project that I've been working on with my AI for a year is so deep and rich now because of the process. But I think I'm like literally blown away. And the other piece of my story I didn't share, but it is relevant, is, I've taught yoga for over 25 years. So for me, having this really deep yoga background, and obviously my book's behind me, like I read a book a week, really deep self-studier, the mimicking and the echoing now with the AI is just, it has absolutely learned my voice, even the way I think about things. So yeah, we're in scary times, but also potentially amazing.
Absolutely. Yes. No, this is such an interesting conversation. And thank you for bringing us up to speed on the knowledge that you have with GEO, Molly. I know we only got a little smidgen of it, but I mean, it kind of sounds like, we need to be getting things across all mediums, being consistent in our message and expertise. But that, like, the old, getting mentioned on other authoritative websites is still really important, because LLMs look at web authority similar to search engines. And I'll give the example of podcasts. Is something that gets scanned and put into the LLMs as well. So, I think building content is important, yes, but it does also come down to building web pages and having consistent messaging. But I don't know. I'm happy to be. If there's anyone out there to disagree with me, you can also, like, I think you gave a really good advice on just ask the LLM, as well. Like, you can even go into the LLM and ask it, like, how do I get noticed more on this LLM? Or, and they might not tell you like exactly what they know about you in an answer like that, but they will give you the step-by-step instructions of how to start building that authority. So yeah, I guess just a vibe coding GEO idea there. But any other last response to close us out, Molly?
I do. Well, and especially because the pod is a great mention, because the pod, when you think about what happens, is you have a recording, which gives you a transcript, right? And if you actually like do this and you're live streaming it, or it goes on YouTube, then you get multiple channels. And then if you publish or amplify through like a Buzzsprout or whatever that is, you get numerous, like 20 different amplification channels or distribution channels. And if all of those places are consistent with transcripts and timestamps and link backs and all of the things, it's really a great, maybe even the best thing to own, to really make sure that you are feeding consistency across channels, just by the very nature of how they are distributed, through the Buzzsprout or whatever it is. That's the one I use. So, but I just really think that's a great example of how one conversation in a pod can actually give you surround sound content that should live primarily on your blog as the anchor to your point, Micah, about having those, that page, the pager or the home base on your own site, and then linking back to all of those places. It's really it really is kind of gold.
Definitely. Good stuff. Well, we've got 2 more really great topics to get into. We're going to be talking about using AI to support marketing execution and balancing automation and human sales. But before we get to those topics, we have a brief message from our sponsors, but also from Reviting ourselves here. We'll be right back.
This is Mike, also known as Clean with Mike on Twitter. Mike hired a virtual assistant from Cherry Assistant about 2 years ago. Now he has a $50K per month business, fully managed by a remote operator in South Africa. His VA from South Africa does the following: closing inbound leads on the phone, Yelp and Google and Facebook, manages his CRM on Go High Level, deals with rescheduling, cancellations, any issues, hires and manages the cleaners, and sends them daily reports and updates. Mike has a fully cash flowing business managed by a remote operator for only $8 an hour. You can also hire a US equivalent worker in the Philippines, South Africa, Latin America for a fraction of the cost with Cherry Assistant. Be like Mike and grow your business with offshore staff.
At Reviting, we help B2B founders, executives, brands turn their live streaming into a real revenue channel. One live stream turns into a podcast, it turns into a social clip, it turns into email content like a newsletter, and actual sales conversations. You get to have a lot of conversations with people when you have a podcast or a live stream like this. And if you want to be known, trusted, and remembered in your industry without being online 24/7, worrying about your posting, This is what we do. Just head on over to reviting.com and let's build your show.
I want to give a quick testimonial for the Reviting team. I was really nervous about doing lives. They very much have helped me increase my reach and online presence. So thank you, Reviting.
I love what you and the team do. I've been picking up 50 followers a day just because that content is resonating so well. It's working across a lot of different channels for me.
One of the problems that we struggle with is getting our brand out there. And her team have been able to do for us is the idea of going live on LinkedIn and using that platform to its fullest extent through the way they're able to take the live event and break it down into bite-sized posts, video clips, as well as the content within the posts themselves.
Awesome. Thank you for sticking around for our brief messages, and we're going to get back into our conversation. So the next one is using AI to support marketing execution. Micah, could you kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I'm excited to talk about this. I think when I talk to a lot of people about how they use AI, it's a lot of chatbots, creating marketing copy, maybe bouncing ideas off of it, generating images, things like that. And all of that has been amazing, and I definitely use it for that. But what's really got me excited about AI for marketing execution recently has been some of the new things from the AI like desktop apps. My favorite one I've been using is Codex, and it's amazing in so many ways because it can connect to all these different platforms via the command line operator. So it can connect basically through APIs. And be able to execute things on different platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn or Google. But it can also connect just using your browser, and it can basically take over your computer and do things on your behalf. The way I've been using this is for a lot of the different marketing campaigns, let's say AdWords or Meta. What I have it do is basically it's connected into them. Pulling the reports in and showing me the data. And then I'm just kind of having a conversation with it. And then from that conversation, giving it some action items and saying, add these keywords, get rid of these keywords, change the bids here, change this here. Let's try some new copy. Let's try some new landing page iterations. And just doing that basically from the one Codex app. I'm not like going into the platform anymore. I'm not clicking a million buttons. And I just let it kind of run. There's still the human in the loop aspect where I'm doing, a lot of the work and a lot of the thinking, but at the same time, there's not a lot of the kind of monotonous stuff you have to do to kind of wade through these platforms and do what you want to do. And you can kick it off and have it run for an hour while you're doing something else. It's just been absolutely amazing to see how that works. And it's all able to just, the challenging part before would be, okay, how do I connect to these APIs? It can basically connect itself. And so I say, hey, I want to connect to the Google Ads API. Here's my account number. Go figure out how to do it. You have to log in and maybe do some stuff like that, but it's able to get connected. You can give it parameters like don't push anything live without my explicit approval, and just put some kind of safeguards in place to help with that. And something like LinkedIn, I'm not able to connect to their ads platform through like their API, but is able to do the browser stuff. So basically I just give it a browser, give it the LinkedIn page, tell it what I want to do, and it goes through again and clicks and kind of optimizes everything based on what I'm explaining. And so that's been really, really nice on the demand generation side of things. And then on the actual like website stuff and landing pages, it's just also been pretty amazing. Previously you need a big design team, you need a big developer team. It'd take weeks or months to, build landing pages or home pages. And again, it's just, you kind of have a conversation with it. There's other really great tools like Claude Design is really nice to get a design, and then you take the design and you give it to Codex or Claude Code, and it goes and connects into Shopify or whatever your different website is, and it can just build it out. As we're talking right now, I have a Codex agent running in the background, working on a website, optimizing it, building this landing page that I had it designed earlier. And again, I think we going back to our initial conversation, this just really helps figuring out and doing testing and understanding what's going to resonate with people, getting really tight feedback loops where you're able to analyze the data and then plug it into these AI systems, and get feedback and understand sort of what people like, what people are clicking on, what's resonating with people, and trying to really personalize it as much as possible. And so, building out 300 landing pages wouldn't have been possible, but now maybe it is possible. And figuring out, again, what are the features, what are the things that resonate with specific groups of people. I think this stuff is just getting better and better. I had the Claude Code Fable access for the 3 or 4 days before it got banned. And that was, just unbelievable. I was waking up in the middle of the night to kind of keep it going and just having it run almost 24 hours because just so powerful in what it's been able to do. And so I've just been really, really excited to be able to use these. They're more powerful than I think a lot of people realize at this point.
100%. Yes, I just installed Codex on my computer this week as well. And I've been having it implement things on Google Calendars and a whole bunch of other stuff. But we have my brother here in the comments, Josh Coleman, my closest in age sibling. I don't think I've ever seen you in the comments of my show. You are awesome, Josh. What are you doing with Codex? My brother Josh is actually building some things. I don't know if you've shared any of it, Josh, or is it stealth? Can I share? I don't know. But yeah, Josh is doing some cool things. Connect with my brother Josh if you're here. But anyway, yeah, I would love to hear too what Molly has to think on using AI to support marketing execution and any of the stuff that Micah was talking about.
Yeah, not so different. Using it in a lot of the same ways. For me, again, I'm sort of locked into Claude because I've spent the most time training my Claude projects. But connecting to Claude Code and being able to connect directly to Airtable and create and Gamma and create presentations really fast and having beautiful reports and all of these things that I used to have to spend time on are now so simple. The challenge, I think, where we still are is, I spend all of the time up front, right, in the briefing doc. And that's my thinking, going on a page and then setting it into the project board. And we still really are into this moment where you have to be careful because a lot of some of the essence of the experience or the lived experience actually gets it's not as clean as I would want it to be. But it's so much easier to edit than from something that, for example, a document that I have then used in Gamma, and then it gives a presentation and then I get to edit from there, instead of having to have that labor and that design time in the mix. But yeah, not so different with what Micah is saying is I like example for pitching media. I used to have to spend a lot of time, scanning through the web, finding articles, trying to understand voice, who they are, what they care about, what are some trends and what they're looking for. And now I am able to go on their LinkedIn and pull their information and I have a training for that of what I want to know. And it's giving me a synopsis of something that would have taken me probably an hour. And now it's just minutes and it's better information. Now, and I also, think that there used to be a lot of hallucination happening, and I don't see that as much either. I also have, mostly everybody has done the same thing where, we've trained our AIs to make sure that they only have verified information, and that they have live links to validate so that we aren't getting that false data the way that we were when we first started using it a year ago. But that to me is the exciting part. And again, is that an optimization production tool? Probably. But being able to take my work and throw it into the Airtable. So my reporting then with the data in Airtable is just so much swifter. It's just that that is like a dream. Because I used to be living in spreadsheets, so that we could be accountable and report back to clients. But now it's like literally just a automatic connection.
Absolutely. I love hearing that. Well, we've got another comment. I'll read it out loud from Josh Coleman, my brother. I've used it I'm like, oh my gosh, my contacts. I have used it to create a trade specific estimating website, an Uber like mowing site, and working on an iOS app. Created a website for my town about e-bike safety. Currently, it's running a diagnostic tool for my PC. I'm using it to make a web-based sandbox video game and lots of things. Yes. He told me about the lawn mowing Uber thing, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot more in there. And I guess I did know about the like trade specific estimating websites. So what else is saying? I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces away 60. Okay. I don't even know what to say to that, Josh, but yeah, no, I love AI. I love that you're building all of that with Codex. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you both of you for getting into AI and how to support marketing execution with it. Let's move into our last topic before we lose time. Because we also have the Guru of the Week, which is where we ask both of you to share someone who inspires you, who creates content and inspires you, either on LinkedIn, ideally on LinkedIn, maybe podcast, maybe somewhere else. But our last topic before we get to Guru of the Week is balancing automation and human sales. Can you kick us off on this, Molly?
Sure. Yeah, this is something I am actually really passionate about because I do think as AI becomes more and more prominent, the ask of us as conscious humans becomes higher and higher. And most of the AI founders are saying the same thing, like the skills and again, because I teach entrepreneurship at Meredith College, I'm very, very tapped into entry-level jobs for my young people and stuff. So what I'm seeing is this ask for how do we become what are the things that make us uniquely human, and what things can't be bypassed with AI? Creativity, discernment, resilience, critical thinking, all of these skills, which frankly have often been sidelined as soft skills, are now really what is becoming intuition. I would put intuition in that boat too. Are becoming the things that, as operators on the other end in partnership with AI, become more critical than ever. And so, as it relates to sales too, I think we're still going to be in this mode, depending on the level of sales or the ask, if you will. And I think the higher the ask, the more human it needs to be. And also, you marry that in with this idea of like ultra high net worth, this K economy that we're in, and like how do like luxury brands create experience? So I think we're just in this weird moment where what is going to be a differentiator? It's going to be how you feel, like how at the end of the day you feel with your experiences with either the salesperson or the brand. And that really comes back down to our connection to each other. And you can't offset that with technology. And maybe you can, or we will. But right now, it feels more important than ever. And so one of the things that I really think people should be doing is like, how do you develop internal authority and trust with yourself first, so that when you are showing up, wherever you're showing up, that you are in alignment, even with yourself. And so that puts to question when we are. I mean, every one of us has probably been in a situation where you are out of alignment with the brand you're working with. I know I have been but those things start to matter, right? You can't fake that anymore. And so I do think we're going to have this great reckoning where people will have to have a hard look, whether their values are aligned with their work, because that's the stuff that really is uniquely human.
Absolutely, 100%. That is the stuff that's uniquely human. And being uniquely human is so important in today's AI age. and automation age. But what's your take on all of this, Micah?
Yeah, I mean, it's more and more sales emails I get personally, I see just it's AI. I think the thing that people are not going to, or AI hasn't been able to do yet that humans do uniquely well is a really good salesperson can write a very short email that gives you a solution to whatever your problem is. And I think those emails are going to continue to be effective because AI has not been able to do that. You can get a long email with the bullet points and AI kind of writing, and it's easy to just kind of let it flow over you. But you see a short one sentence email and it's like something that really resonates with you. You're going to respond to that. You're going to, have some kind of reaction to that. And I think if you can find humans who do that, I think those people are just going to be more and more valuable. And those people are where a lot of the sales is going to go because there's just going to be so much automation noise. And so in a way, I think the best salespeople are going to become more successful. And I think the automation stuff's working right now because most people aren't used to just the AI being able to generate this stuff like crazy. But if it becomes more and more AI noise, people are going to tune that out and look for those like human to human connections as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike, I was just going to say too, like for me, like that's where I feel like things like conferences, meetups, those things are going to be relevant again, because the relationship starts online and then when you meet someone, they already kind of know who you are. And so like, does who you are in a room show up with how they've perceived you online? Or if it's vice versa, you meet someone and then does who you are online match? But it really is about resonance. But I think those any kind of interaction, community building, those things I feel are starting to feel relevant again. Not that they ever really went away, but it is, I think, the thing that people are craving, and activating like real legitimate experiences with the brand.
100%. In-person events are not going to go anywhere. And that's why I think live streaming is seeing an up and coming, and the industry reports show that it's not going anywhere and it's just going to get bigger. And B2C, you're seeing them sell products right on stage, QVC style on like TikTok. B2B is, a little bit different, but a little more thought leadership, sort of like what we're doing now. But it's human, it's real, we can mess up. And, that's the thing you're getting into when you sign up to come onto a live stream, is that like lights, camera, action, all of the breaths, all the it's nothing's edited out. People can come into the comments, they can say whatever they want. And so, there's just a realness about it, which is, I think, kind of what makes it work. Because even if you don't get a lot of people there, if you get a few people there, it's like, just like having a few people in the room with you to some degree. It's hard to replicate that online. Like you're never going to get that everywhere, but of course it's a little bit more budget friendly. But I digress, because we need to get to the guru of the week, because we want to know who walks the walk and talks the talk on LinkedIn, that you follow, or any other platform. Like what voice out there inspires you? We've just been inspired by you for the last hour, but we've got a little video we play to kick this.
The guru of the week. Ooh, the guru of the week. Ooh.
There it is. Could you both tell us who's your guru of the week?
Micah, you want to go first, or you want me to jump in?
You can go first.
I have two. That I'm following mostly for AI, and it is Rand Fishkin. He was at Moz, and now he's at SparkToro, and then Neil Patel from NP Digital. And I follow those guys because the landscape like literally changes by the moment, and I feel like they have the breadth and depth of the teams to be able to test before they advise, and they've earned my trust as we navigate the AI landscape. So,
Yeah. For me, I said, I think before the call started that I don't follow too many people on LinkedIn. But someone I worked with back at Ring, she's now the CMO, Mimi Swain. She posts a lot of really good stuff on LinkedIn, and always enjoy reading her posts. And so a lot of like inspirational stuff about what she's done and how she's kind of driven the brand forward. And yeah, she's someone I know personally, but I enjoy reading on LinkedIn as well.
So cool. Well, thank you both for sharing their names. We'll have to go look them up. Congratulations to them. And that's it for tonight. It is 9:00 on the dot. We got through all of our topics. The only last thing we really like to share with our guests is a little bit more about you. So if you could both close us out by sharing who it is you serve, how you serve them, and if they could be served by you, how do they reach you? Molly?
Well, I am incredibly passionate about women in business, and also mentoring and shaping the next generation of women in business. So for me, anybody who shares that passion is someone that I love to work with. I also have a heart for people who want to change the world. So impact leaders, founders who believe in regenerative systems, circular economies, SDGs, anybody who is trying to align their work with business for good. Those are my people. And so you can find me obviously here on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to talk shop. If you ever want to, just shoot the breeze and figure out how do we navigate this together. I love it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And how about you, Micah? Who do you serve? How do you serve them? And if they can be served by you, how do they reach you?
Yeah, I love working with people who are really passionate about their businesses. That's kind of been a through line in my career. And whether that's something that's super high tech or something that's no tech at all, that's really what gets me excited, is working with people who really care about what they're doing and just always want to push things forward and figure out how to grow their business as big as possible. And so, yeah, I do some consulting. And so if anybody wants to reach out to me, it's just micah@opensignal.co. Feel free to shoot me an email. I respond very quickly, and even happy to just chat and bounce ideas off of. I love hearing from people and talking about different businesses.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for sharing that and for coming on last minute. Both of you are like WinsDay heroes, keeping the show going every Wednesday for almost 4 years now. I think it's over 4 years technically.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I really appreciate it. This has been a great episode. And until next week, we'll see everyone back here. But Molly and Micah, I hope to see both of you backstage so we can make sure that the upload speed is good to go and we can send the world all of our post-production materials. But thanks a lot, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.